With the start of my first word, my time will begin. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining the First Constructive Speech and Debate podcast. This is a podcast for everything speech and debate in Texas. Our names are Ryan Stokes and Kenny Adcock, and we are excited to continue this journey with you. As we begin to work through the upcoming season, it is our goal to share some stories, introduce you to experts, and facilitate conversations that we hope will help you throughout your season. Whether you are a coach, student, competitor, or a parent trying to figure out what crazy event your student participates in, we're here for you. With that being said, we're continuing our topic of how to start and plan your season. So, Kenny, what do you do about your budget not opening until late September?
Well, the first thing I do is cry. Because you hit the nail on the head. It is one of the biggest problems that I think as teachers and coaches that we run into. I'm in the middle of hosting my own personal team camp. It's kind of how we kick off the season and figuring out how to make sure that we have, people, paid to come in and teach, people, meals covered, right? Snacks, those kinds of things. It's hard when you're, director of finance is like the budgets are closed. They'll open on September 24th. So the real workaround is my activity account is my savior. Right. Being able to use that money kind of freely has really been an encouragement. So I would definitely encourage other sponsors and coaches, whether your director of finance wants to call it an activity account, a specialty account, they've kind of changed names over the years that we've been in the business. But at the end of the day, that, individual account that you kind of have a lot more freedom over has been a huge grace. That's why I host tournaments, right? So I can deposit money and, create a revenue stream there and have that kind of, so I can have some money that I can use so I can send kids to camp. I can do those kinds of things. One of the big things is that I try to put in a bunch of my POs and requisitions at the end of the year, because as we're well aware, school finance, when the budget closes, it closes and that money is gone. And when it's gone, sometimes it doesn't come back. So we have to make sure that our, finance directors know that the budget they allotted us, we're using effectively, efficiently, and, we're not letting any dollar go to waste. Those are kind of some of the ways that I troubleshoot budget. You have any other suggestions or suspicions, some things maybe I'm leaving out?
Yeah, sure. I can talk about kind of my perspective. First thing I say is your business secretary, your principal secretary, and your transportation secretaries need to be your work best friends. You are going to talk to them so much. So whoever you end up putting your requisitions in with, that business person, whether they're a fine arts, a UIL, or just your business campus secretary, go talk to them. I had a great working relationship with the one at my previous school. Really enjoyed it. The principal secretary, with it being a debate coach, you're going to be gone a lot. It's really nice if they like you because they get better subs to fill in for you if you forget to put something in.
Dude, some of the horror stories we've heard from other coaches who have had bad subs, unbelievable.
Yeah, just it's not what you want to come back to for sure. And then transportation. You want them on your side. You want them to give you the good Suburban and not the one from like 2001, right? So
you mean the one that the electric cables are going to disconnect at UIL State and you're going to have to call them and tell them how bad the vehicle is?
Yeah, you don't want that one. So if they're your friends, right, they like you, they're going to give you the better end of the deal. Also, you want to work to help them understand your early needs for your budget, such as materials that need to be ordered, memberships that need to be paid, and any fundraisers you want to do outside of your own tournament throughout the year. The schools that I've worked at use a PO system. And so as soon as you know what your expenses are going to be, go ahead and send them the quotes. Let them get it started so that when they start making their, they can make the PO to be hit on September 1st, right? And then you go in and you pay your stuff from the invoice, right? So, sure, your budget isn't available to pay those things, but a lot of the resources that are available to us out there, if you set get the quote, create the invoice, right? They'll allow you to pay it on September 1st when your budget pops out. But check with your school for certain to make sure that's okay. That's just been my experience. Okay. Also,
one thing that I'd like to add on to that, I've made a lot of friends in the area, and being tournament directors, like we're pretty understanding because we get where the budget is, right? In the season, those early on tournaments, a lot of those guys that they're pretty lenient in understanding that the budget hasn't opened. As long as they know that that PO's in and they have some level of like documentation, it shouldn't impede your ability to travel or compete or participate in tournaments early on in the season.
Yeah, for sure. People that run contests are super supportive of you coming to their school because they want you to come back next year, right? So like they're not going to be like, no, you can't come. You didn't get your PO done. Like you're not competing today. Nobody's like that. Or at least if there's somebody out there, nobody's heard of them because they've basically stopped being a debate coach. Also, another thing you're going to want to do is figure out how your school pays hired judges to help with the cost of tournaments because everybody knows the biggest cost to a debate tournament is not the entry fees, it's the uncovered judging fees.
Yep.
So, like Pine Tree, where I was at, used a system called Arbiter. It's a great system. They stole it from athletics. I don't usually give athletics a whole lot of credit, but this is how they paid refs, and it made paying our judges super easy. They filled out their forms on Arbiter one time, and then it was a click to pay at the end of the tournament. There was no your checks in the mail, any of that. It just went straight to their bank account. I would encourage schools to look into Arbiter. But most schools, as you can probably talk about,
Yeah, I'm a
make you
big
fill
fan of
out a
the old
vendor
fashioned
form.
check system. I know the vendor form is kind of obnoxious and annoying, but once you get it filled out that first time, it's like smooth as butter. I am once I get them filled out, I'm handing checks out at tournaments ready to go. Being small school, I don't get to pay a whole lot. I'm a bit of a cheapskate when it comes to judges, and I know that that's not what judges want to hear. I'm working on that, but I mean we're doing what we can with the budget that we have, especially when things are getting tighter.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay, well, I mean that's all I really have to say about how I handle my budget opening late. Um, do you have a go box like that you take to tournaments once you figure out where you're going?
I'll be honest with you, I'm the world's worst go box coach. I'm the world's greatest about forgetting it on campus. I know it exists. I know it's in my room. And I always look at one of my kids and I'm like, hey, you should really remember that because I know that I'm not going to. But it's definitely an essential tool that I think all coaches should have. And don't be like me. Don't forget it on campus because you'll never forget when that, really nice junior who had a concussion the night before needs some Excedrin and you just don't have it. And you have to go around asking other coaches to be nice to you. It's they will. They'll help you out and they'll be nice and they'll bail you out of the jam. They'll give you the band-aid, the Excedrin, or whatever is needed because we're a community and we're a family, and we understand that there's some humanity involved when we woke up at 5 a.m. to get the bus and get the kids there on time.
Not that we would ever let a student with a concussion compete.
Hey, sometimes they're committed, man. Sometimes they just want to debate.
Okay, well, I guess I'd talk about what I put in mine for sure. Travel permission forms for sure. Like, I need a piece of paper that says your parent gave me permission to take you around the state
Hey, just
or
so
outside the
here,
state.
I do keep my travel permission slips. That
Okay,
doesn't go in my go box. I keep a travel binder for that purpose.
nice. Then I keep a first aid kit, safety pins. There's nothing worse than a kid ripping their dress or their pants early in the morning because they're not paying attention on a bus, on a van seat, or whatever, and you need to close something up.
Hey, you've picked up many a balance with a hole in your jeans before.
Yeah, college is different. Um, and just a quick story. You can only tell your debaters to tell the judge they spilled coffee on their clothes in the morning so that they can't wear their nice stuff so many times before they realize that you just don't wear nice things. Okay. Um, Also, we take a case of water. My new team brings a teapot because they say it soothes their throat drinking hot tea, and I'm not one to stop it.
I might have
They
to
call
pull
it
that one.
they call it tournament tea, which when they first told me about it, I thought they were just gossiping, but no, they meant the actual drink. And then snacks. High school students go through snacks. Uh,
Like offensive linemen go through, snacks.
Buffets.
Right?
Like there's not enough.
No, no, there's not.
Extra pens, flow paper, timers, and for me, I also brought our debate vlog camera because I was video logging the season
How did that
throughout the
turn out, by the
year.
way?
Um, I wish I was a better videographer, but the kids loved it. Even if I didn't get the complete video done by the end of the year, like I really, really wanted to, they had so much fun interviewing each other, interviewing students from other schools about their season,
I hope
and
mine
just
made it.
they did, and
Oh,
just overall, getting to see how they grew throughout the season when they went back and looked at little clips. So I thought it went really well. So yeah, consider getting a debate vlog camera just so it gives your students something to do between rounds that isn't bother you. Lets them go bother other people. It's great.
it's something constructive rather than destructive.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. I guess another question that I have is, now that we know about setting up our budget, we know what's in the go box. What are some pre-tournament necessities, like things that you think need to be done? It doesn't just have to be paperwork uh, before going to a tournament.
So I think the first obvious one is paperwork, right? Like I have accidentally frustrated my director of transportation probably one too many times, which is why I'm going to take some notes from this and try and be better about that this school year. But just making sure that you know all of the proper paperwork that needs to be turned in. I think that's crucial. I think you hit on it in the kind of pre-budget, but I think just knowing that process, right? Knowing what your transportation request, knowing all of those things is crucial. I created a checklist. I have a campus secretary that I give that title to one of my kids, and I encourage them to hold me accountable so we don't miss a tournament, that everything goes smoothly, that the bus shows up at 6 a.m. because your coach didn't forget to put in the transportation request, and you've got to call the director of transportation at 6:30 in the morning, and he's not happy because now you're waking him up. Those are not fun phone calls, and I don't encourage anybody to experience that, especially when your director of transportation was an old offensive line coach for Longview High School. He's an incredible guy. I love him to death, but he definitely can have a temper at 6 a.m. when he wasn't supposed to be up.
Especially on
I don't
Saturday.
blame him at all. Um, yeah. Pre-tournament necessities. We use Dropbox, right? Like, so a lot of our cases go in the Dropbox. We make sure that you have an AF and neg. We purchase some briefs throughout the school year, which I'm sure we'll talk about later on in a different episode. But briefs are really helpful, like packets of evidence, and the forensic file produces some good LD foundational stuff for my novices, that once they've produced a case, AF or neg doesn't matter. They just have to give me something. It can be really, really bad. And most of the time it is really, really bad, but they've shown me they at least know how to skeletonally put together a case. I will throw them the bone that is the forensic file and give them the AF and neg and let them survive this tournament instead of, sink like they would have if they had no casework. Note cards, my kids use note cards to kind of talk in between rounds. A lot of teams use sticky notes for this. We like note cards. That's just kind of our system. Making sure that you've got pins. The debate world's a little bit of an elitist when it comes to their pin work. So a G2.5. If you use anything else, people will judge you a little bit. They'll still support you, but they'll kind of look at you a little funny. And I know Ryan laughs, but he laughs because he knows that it's a fact. Matter of fact, I had a .10 that I was using at TSDC 2 weeks ago, and John Anderson looked at me with that same look, and was just like, "I'm judging you a little bit here, Kenny." And it was just it was very, very heart-wrenching that I had the wrong G2, and so making sure you have all of those things. I would encourage you to put some responsibility on your students, right? Like, they have the wherewithal, and they're mature young people, right? Some of our kids are the best of the best on their campuses, and they're student leaders, and they're willing to step up and make sure the flow papers there, the pins are there, the casework's there. Your students can be leaders and really step into that role. And so those are a lot of the things that I think we need to make sure we have. Water is a necessity. I like the tea kettle pot idea. I have enough kids that could probably use that. I think Lane could have used that this past season with, every single round he was coughing in. Maybe that teapot would have helped him out a great deal. We should have ran into Sunnyvale sooner. But those are kind of some of the things that we put together that I've learned over the years that really help set your kids up for success when you're going for tournaments. Do you have anything else to add? Anything that maybe, I missed?
Sure, I'll go through just my kind of in my head checklist. First of all, I'm putting up a sign up sheet a month before each tournament. So 4 weeks before. That gives time for kids to look at their calendars, make a commitment, and stick to it. Nothing's worse than drop fees at a tournament because you're paying for the judge fee, you're paying for the debater, and nobody went.
How do you hold your kids accountable to that, right? Like, let's say, life happens and grandma got sick and they couldn't make it there at 6 a.m. What's your reaction to that?
Family emergencies, I'm not really going to challenge unless it seems that every debate tournament has a family emergency, and then that student may just not get to travel for a while. And it's not that I'm trying to doubt the student or take away opportunity, but I kind of have in my mind a budget that I can spend on students, right? And if someone has shown, whether through their own fault or just bad circumstance, a pattern of not making it to rounds, then they kind of get kicked back until I can like trust them to be there again. But for the others, I have them sign a contract with their parents. I don't hold them like fiscally responsible. You're not going to pay me back. Um, but just like tournaments are tied to your grade in debate, right? And have them understand that if you bail on me day of the tournament or 2 days, realistically 2 days or less before the tournament, then it's going to affect your grade in my debate class, right? And luckily at the school I'm going to now, students really care about their grades and their GPA if they're taking debate, so that should help hold them some kind of accountable. But also outside of the stick, make kids really love your event and love joining the team, and you don't have to worry about them missing.
Yeah, I can tell you that that's really been one of the best tools for me is I make Saturdays fun, right? Like you talked about the vlog, right? That was one of the coolest things, getting to be on that and getting to interact, watching our teams interact, was really, really incredible. And that family, when you go to tournaments, I mean, relationships happen, inter squad mingling happens. I mean, like those are the things that make Saturday worthwhile. And they'll get up at 6 a.m. for that. They'll get up at 5 a.m. for that. Because they want to go see their friends. They want to debate with their friends. They want to, those like my favorite thing is I get to see you guys, right? Like I get to hang out
Yeah.
with my coach friends, and those are really cool moments.
So after the sign up sheet, right, a month in advance, they have to sign up. Another reason is you've got to get your paperwork 2 weeks in before a tournament, right? So that also gives you your window of you've got everything set, you've got your 2 weeks ahead, you know what kids are going, and you're stacked, and you can move past that. The next part is if I am taking novice or new debaters, for sure mock rounds have been done, like in my room. They have gone through a full session, whether in after school practice or if you're lucky enough to have a debate class, get them through their speeches so that they're probably still going to cry at the tournament, but it's not going to be crying and puking and having a panic attack. They're just going to shed some tears. But getting them through some mock rounds in your actual classroom prepares them greatly. And if I have time for my varsity debaters to do it too, we'll do that as well. Also, I checked the tournament information page to see what topics and docket they're using. There's every UIL coach who is wading into the TFA pool for the first time has gone to a TFA tournament, prepped out on the UIL Congress docket or the UIL LD docket. Their kid gets in the round, and if they're F, they just lose, and if they're neg, they lose while going completely on case with no cards off the
and
fly because
and
the
they cry,
topics are different.
and they cry a
And
lot.
they cry. And they cry. And then they yell at you and call you a bad coach because you didn't tell them that what the topic was, and then they don't want to debate anymore, and the whole day's ruined. So please
Check
go
the
look at the
rotation.
tournament information page, find out what's actually being debated there. Next, complete cases and docket prep. Early in the season, we need at least one speech on every bill, but as we approach Congress, like region, we're prepping both sides. Period. Right? We're going to have all sides of the docket prepped out. LD and CX, obviously, we've got an egg strat on CX, an AF case. I don't run a team case, so each team needs to be preparing their own stuff and going deep. It's okay if you run a team case. I'm not advocating that you do one way or the other. My teams are just ultra competitive against each other and don't want to share their apps.
I think early on in the season that team case for your novices makes sense, right?
Yes, for
It's
sure.
okay to have everybody running the biotech case or the federal jobs guarantee, just because that's clean, consistent, and your varsity kids can help with that because it was probably what they read at camp.
Yeah. After that, I have a checklist for my paperwork that I need to take to the tournament. I go over expectations for behavior, which I don't have a lot of these. There's different people. Some people have a thick binder, some people have one sentence. I simply go, if it's going to get us on the news in a bad way, don't do it. If your parents are going to yell at me, don't do it. If
Your
it,
measuring stick is if it's going to get Mr. A yelled at. The answer is no.
right? Um, I don't want to weigh them down with a whole bunch of like ticky tacky rules. Try to create that good team culture where they understand what's at stake and that they help each other succeed. I go over dress code. Debate unfortunately still has some kind of a dress code, and I don't want my kids to receive. I'm not going to call them hateful. I'm going to call them ignorant. Ignorant comments from judges about
I would just want to encourage
a
judges
student's dress.
that the ballot is not the tool to advocate for student dress, right? There are
Correct.
places to do that. You can make that verbal comment, but the ballot is not the tool for that.
So, how do you recruit at the beginning of the year? It's the big ticket item. We've only got about probably 10 minutes to talk about it. Um, so let's hit it hard, fast. Let's tell these new coaches or even some experienced ones what we do to recruit and get new life, new blood into our programs.
I can tell you that I am probably the unicorn when it comes to recruiting. I came out of COVID and I had a team of 30, right? Like I'm blessed. I'm beyond blessed. And for me, it's because I've created a culture that kids want to be a part of, right? Like I understand that I'm asking a teenager to voluntarily sacrifice a Saturday. And in order to do that, I need to create an environment that's fun. I need to be a person that they want to spend a Saturday with. And so from that culture, word of mouth is my biggest recruitment, right? My kids talk so highly and so loudly on our campus that people know that we're speech and debate and that we're, really competitive and that we have a really good time. I'll tell you one of my biggest recruiting secrets is that we eat really well, right? We don't do your typical CC, right? We do a team dinner kind of thing. It looks a lot like Dr. Franklin, right? Like I think that dude set the bar for what a team dinner looks like, and I model that, and I take that, and we culture. Our culture is very communicative. Flyers, the announcements, right? Like everybody hears their name and the recognition from the 15 to 20 tournaments we travel to a year, right? And they hear first and second and third and sixth, and you can pretty up some places, right? Even if you didn't make it out of like prelims, sixth place in the room sounds a whole lot better because most of the people on your school and your campus don't have any idea that you took sixth place in your prelim session and didn't make finals, right? You can pretty up your announcements and really make them an effective tool for measurement and for recruitment. The NSTA certificates, right? Like stickers still motivate kids. I will die on that mountain. We have ours framed, put up on the wall. The kids get their stickers when they come in. We make a big deal about it. We applaud them. They put their own sticker on the certificate. And then they're like, okay, how many points to my next one? It's 72. Okay, I can get it to this next tournament, right? Like stickers, stickers, stickers. I can't preach it enough. So those are some of the like snippets I use. We might can put together another episode on this one. I think it would be worth its weight to spend a good chunk of time talking about it. But I want to give you some time to talk about your recruiting secrets as well.
Yeah. Okay. Um, see if your school has a print shop that will print flyers, posters to hang around the school to advertise. Right. You want kids walking by it in the halls and seeing your logo. Debate team shirts. Right. Set up maybe early on in the semester, like, hey, it's debate team Thursday. On Thursdays, we're going to wear our team shirts. Right. So that students around the campus will see that there's a thing here that people are a part of they get a little FOMO. They come by your room to find out what's going on. Inside of my room, I do a 30s, ones, and sixes board where if a student gets a 30 in a speaking points in a round, they get first in their room, and that's prelim or finals, or they get a 6 on a Congress speech. I take that ballot and I tack it up on the board with under their name, right? So one, students in my other classes that aren't debate see this board and they're like, Mr. Stokes, why do you have 31-6 on your board over there? And then I can tell them about speech and debate. It just opens the door. It's also a great motivator to your kids. I had one girl who was a senior beat my sophomore 29-28 last year in perfect speaking ballots to take the award at the end of the season, right? So it also provides some motivation to your students. A Polaroid picture board. My debaters got those little Polaroid cameras because the 90s are old and cool now, and they would walk around and take those little like photo booth camera style pictures at tournaments, and they bring them back and they hang their pictures up on this board, all like Chip and Joanna Gaines style. And other students would be like, "Oh, they look like they're having a lot of fun. What's this?" I'm like, "Oh, that's a speech and debate tournament. Doesn't it look fun? Would you like to go do that?" So those are some of the things I do in my room. If every school does announcements, get a pitch into the announcements. So whether that's a video, a vocal, just an ad, whatever, get it out there. Something I picked up from another coach last year was debaters have to recruit one new debater to the team.
You're
right? Now, whether they stay or not, I'm not going to hold that against the kid, but they have to get one other kid to come by the room. And here's the justification for it. If they can't persuade somebody to come and look at debate, they probably can't persuade someone to win a round. Okay? Also, reach out to your counselors about potential students that could be successful. This one comes with a warning. They might lie to you, try to stuff a kid in there. And if that happens, you do your best to make that kid successful. Debate is open to everybody. But be wary, really talk to the counselors, know the kind of students that will fit into your team culture, and really stress to them like what kind of students you think would fit in. That doesn't necessarily just have to be your top 10%. Okay. Obviously, pitch your debate team to your speech, your government, your English classes, whatever you're teaching. And then something else I did this last year was I brought kids from the junior high and the middle school in different sessions and had them come up and do a Congress workshop hosted by my Congress varsity debaters. So for 30 minutes, they talked to them about Congress, kind of showed them what it was. For 30 minutes, they helped them craft little silly bills of legislation. And then for 30 minutes, they angeled them through a little Congress round, right? And you want to strategically place this right before counselors go down there to make their schedule for high school, right? So that these junior high kids are like, man, I really enjoyed like that debate thing. That was really cool. I'm going to put debate one on my schedule. Or if you don't have a debate class, do this. And then those kids are thinking about, I want to do debate next year. That's a cool thing I haven't been exposed to yet. And then just really quickly, there's a movement in UIL coming soon. Jana Riggins talked about it at Capitol Conference, and I talked to her about it at Baylor. Middle school debate is coming most likely to UIL. So if you can talk,
next year, the Legislative Council intends to vote on it.
Right. So if you
discuss this year, so
if you can talk to your administration about not just getting a debate class for the high school, but a debate class down at the junior high, talk about how debate improves SAT scores, it improves reading fluency, it improves everything that they want out of their students as far as critical thinking, the ability to actually succeed. Get them started in junior high, and that's going to create you a pipeline into the high school. And those are how, and Pine Tree did that from just implemented that from 5th grade through the high school speech and debate at Pine Tree, where I left. Hopefully I can maybe get Sunnyvale to that point, but it took me a little while, but I didn't have the legislative backing of the UIL coming soon. So yeah, those are just my ideas, fast and furious, on how to recruit at the beginning of the year, and I guess kind of throughout it as well.
Which to testify to your, like, all students are welcome. And one of my best interpreters was at almost the dead bottom of her class, and she was a top 16 performer at the Longhorn Classic in a couple of years ago. Like, it doesn't just have to be the top 10. Speech and debate is an activity that welcomes and thrives with everybody, all like intelligences, all body types, all individuals. It is a space that everybody is truly welcome.
Oh, for sure. Kids thrive when they find a place that allows them to do it. And so if you can build your team culture as a culture that allows students to thrive and work hard and become the best they can, any kid could be the next national champion. Or
Or state champion.
so, yeah, state champion. That's how I feel about it. Oh, hey, there's the timer. Thank you for joining us as we continue to launch this project. Join us for our next installment, where we're going to be discussing the order in which we recommend teaching speech and debate events with a class and without a class. So a little scope and sequence for my mainline teachers. Have a good one.
Good night.